Transgenderism. Today is going to be a fire video because I'm going to react to Neil deGrasse Tyson's thoughts on transgenderism as he debates or talks to Ben Shapiro. Now, because this is such a big and contentious topic, I'm going to have to bring out my spiritual hat, so to speak, and really go in when I give my opinions. I already know I will because it's about transgenderism. And of course, I have my thoughts on it like we all do. So there's no way I'm going to, when I give my opinions, going to subtract how I really feel about reality itself and bring that into or on the table. So without further ado, let's listen to this right now. I'm pressing play now.
It seems like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should...
I have to pause it already. He said ascientific, it means not scientific. As a Jewish person, a religious Jew, I'm assuming he's a religious Jew. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I assume by looking at him, of course, I'm not sure what the hat thing is called, but I know it's a Jewish attire. How can you talk about ascientific as if science is the barometer of truth when you, assuming you believe in God, believe that there's this external being that created everything and there's hell after death? That's not scientific. So surely you don't care too much about science truths. We're talking about truth. I told you guys I have to go deep today. We're talking about truth. So is that truth or faith and belief? Which is fine, of course. Press and play again.
Be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine on this. This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender. Otherwise, why do you even give a shit what someone identifies with? So we live in a free country, and with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
On adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach your children.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of
Pause. Again, I'm not just getting at him because he's a religious person. I'm just talking about truth here. Who's going to disagree with him? I know I wouldn't, that it doesn't matter what you teach children. But hold on. Don't we teach children in many schools around the world that depending on what they do in this lifetime, they will end up burning in hell forever? I was one of those kids who was taught to believe that. And, living your life with that fear creates a certain person. It restricts one's seeking of deeper truths. I finally got there, but some people didn't grow out of it. So I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what we teach children, but how literal is he taking that?
What you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all. Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay? This is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So, and I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormonal. This is thought I had. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
That would be weird. competing based on your hormone balance. I know he's just said that he's just thinking of that on the spot, or he's been thinking about that. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that idea. Like just competing based on your hormones. But it's interesting. There's another, out there thinking.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, 'cause I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No,
meaning
wait.
that
I have to say it again, Ben. Yes, it's not scientifically proven yet, transgenderism. But hold on. It's not scientifically proven what a boy is, what a girl is anyway. Those are ideas too. They are labels. Yes, they are useful for society. But let's be real. If we're talking about truth, all we all knew in our direct experience when we were young is our body. We knew our body. We knew the genitalia we had. Okay, then we were told that this means we're a boy. We were told that this means we're a girl. And as we know, we live in a world where we even go as far to say that pink is for girls, blue is for boys. That's how ridiculous things can get. Now, I'm not saying again that the idea of girl and boy, man and woman aren't good ideas, good concepts. But if we're talking truthfully, they are concepts. They are. The body, however, that is more robust. We can definitely say and identify certain bodies have certain functions and do certain things and look certain ways, for sure. But then we superimpose the idea of gender upon it. If we're talking about truth, we have to go there. Furthermore, scientifically proven, again, what's your barometer for that? Because it's not scientifically proven that Jesus is coming back or coming. It's not scientifically proven that there's a God that created everything, this being. It's not scientifically proven that you are a conscious being. Consciousness is not scientifically proven. It's literally called the hard problem of consciousness, where scientists are still trying to put a square peg in a round hole when they say, some of them say that the brain generates consciousness. They can't find that mechanism. Look it up, yeah? And I assert to you that nobody will ever find that the brain generates consciousness, because the brain does not generate consciousness, but I'll talk about that on my other channels. So when you're talking about truth, how far are you going? Because I go deep. You have to go deep with this deep question. It's big, it's a big thing in society right now, transgenderism. It's not just going to go away. We have to look at things from a deeper perspective and respect people.
Wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's a social point, not a scientific point. Meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And
again, he's going too far. See, this is why no scientist would last 2 seconds debating me, quite frankly, because I would reveal very quickly that a lot of their beliefs or so-called facts are based on beliefs, are based on things that are not robust thoughts or theories themselves. Because he's saying, how does transgenderism relate to biology? But hold on, we haven't even proven consciousness yet. The very being that says, I am something else, we haven't proven that yet scientifically. We haven't proven that the so-called inner world is within the body. It's you perceive that, it feels like that, but no surgeon is going to open someone's body up and see the person's inner world and their thoughts and their emotions. We correlate parts of the body to emotions and thoughts, but that's a correlation. Doesn't equal causation, which is a logical fallacy to say that it does. So, we have to scientifically, if you want to talk about science, science have to understand the fundamental nature of consciousness first. The very thing that says I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I'm this, I'm that has thoughts, that says I'm a scientist, I'm a religious person, I'm a truck driver, I'm a footballer, I have thoughts, I have depression, I have anxiety, I'm happy, I'm sad. Science would have to prove that scientifically first before they can then say, well, transgenderism has improved scientifically, but nothing has when you talk about the mind and consciousness. It's correlation. You have to go deeper. Scientifically prove to me that you are Ben Shapiro. Scientifically prove to me that he's Neil deGrasse Tyson. Scientifically prove to me that you have memory. Scientifically prove to me that you are conscious. Of course it can't be done. Because they're ideas, concepts, that's all. And useful ones, but they're ideas and concepts.
Example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study. If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say, it's not biological, it's just your this, it's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested
the question of how to. I have to paraphrase a little bit. The question of how to validate if something is manifested, like how to say that something is manifested, is a scientific question. That's not true. That's a philosophical question. Manifestation? Again, we're talking about existence. We're talking about things appearing into existence, whether by a thought or the so-called physical. That's a philosophical question. That's not a scientific question. Science deals with what is here and right now. Science deals with what is observable, repeatable, and testable. That's what science deals with. It doesn't deal with manifestation. So that was wrong.
The study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry. which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides
is, what is your motivation?
Why? Why does that matter?
Good question, deGrasse Tyson. I don't know why I'm saying his whole name, but we will do that. What is your motivation? But before that, prior to that, Ben said, bring out the science, then hash it out. He's so A to B when it comes to certain things. Bring out the science and hash it out. But hold on, what if the science is insufficient? What if the science does not hold all the keys and all the clues? What if science is behind? What if science is looking in the wrong direction of what is a person? What is the mind? What does it mean to be transgender? What does it mean to be a boy or girl in the first place? What if science is behind that? Then you're going down the wrong path. What if? Not just bring out the science. Why be so religious when it comes to science? If it's scientific, then it's true. No, that's not true. Science used to say that Irish people were less intelligent than other people, other white people, just because they're Irish. Science used to say that. Science used to say that lobotomies were good things. Lobotomy. Science used to say that. So just because it's science doesn't mean it's true. Of course, we all know, science changes all the time. Well, hold on a minute. If science is changing all the time, that means they learn new information, and sometimes learn new information because they made mistakes. Then it's not just bring out the science and hash it out. It's taking other avenues, other perspectives of reality to find out what is the deep-rooted truth of the moment, the deep-rooted truth of a being, a person. What does it mean to be a person, have a mind, have an inner world, have consciousness? What does it mean? First of all, before we say, well, transgenderism isn't scientifically proven, hold on a minute, hold your horses. What is consciousness? No scientist can prove that scientifically. And again, you believe in God, I believe, since it appears that you're a Jewish person. No scientist can prove God. There could be God. I don't believe there is, but let's say there is. You couldn't scientifically prove that which is outside of physical laws. So yeah, it just makes no sense. I don't like the double standards people bring when they talk about truth. Because when we talk about truth of reality, they're deep things, not relative things like who's the best football player. That's okay. I'm talking about deep things. We have to look at what is actually our direct understanding of reality that we know for sure, and then go from there.
Why? Right? Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all this.
My guy just said, then make a better argument. Again, my previous answer just answered that, even though it wasn't to me, obviously. Then make a better argument. In other words, make a better argument than I feel that I'm a boy, therefore I'm a boy. I feel that I'm a girl, therefore I'm a girl. But hold on a minute. We superimpose these things upon kids anyway. Like, it's a deeper question than just make a better argument. Man, these guys will last no time with me.
Science, and let's hash it out.
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So
I'll give it.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I don't remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast study.
Or psychological.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And I said, I don't care which it is. find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological. All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian?
And that scares me.
I'm a libertarian. Come over here. Just
okay.
The line is right here. Just join me over here.
Well. So it was very clear that Neil deGrasse Tyson was trying to make a bigger point, a larger point about the matter, but Ben Shapiro wanted to pinpoint, stay fixated on the short-sighted view that I was told that a boy is this, a girl is that scientifically, therefore that's the truth. But hold on a minute, like I'm saying, the larger point that neither of them are seeing, but Neil at least is getting there, is hold on a minute. What even is consciousness? What even is the I? What even is the mind? The very person who is saying, I am not this, I am that. That is a thought. That is an emotion. That is an intuition. Where do they come from? Can you correlate or say that they come from the body, are caused from the body? No, you cannot. Because as we say about the body and mind being linked, they are linked, but only in this distinct way that they both correlate to a certain being. But the being has different aspects of them. Now, the non-physical side, the mind side, is not bounded by the body. So whatever you say from the physical perspective isn't always true from the mental perspective. For example, you could put your hands up and say, yeah, I'm so happy, but in your mind thinking, I'm not happy. So hold on a minute. If your body is who you are, how can you pretend to be happy, but in your mind you're actually unhappy? How can you smile at everybody saying that you are great, but really you're suffering deep depression? You see, the body and mind are not the exact same thing. Yes, they are linked, but they're not the same. So the person, the beingness, that is more fundamental than the body. No biology could determine somebody's being, somebody's mind, somebody's consciousness, because they're distinct. Like when you was 5 years old, you were so sure that you was a 5 years old person. But then you became 6 and then 7. Hold on a minute. The body kept on changing. If you was the body, then your being would be changing all the time. But no, you were always sure that you are you. Yes, new experiences come. The body even changes, but you are still you. The being that you are was never in any question. You knew that it was you that was 5. It was you that was 6. It was you that was 7. It's you that is watching this right now. And in terms of kids, yes, I agree. We shouldn't actually teach kids about transgenderism in school. We should keep it simple. Boy is this and girl is that, and have certain genitalia. Keep it as that. Why? Because as Neil deGrasse Tyson even said, we don't even know from a scientific point of view what transgenderism is anyway. So if we have insufficient knowledge of it, then how can we tell kids and give them our insufficient knowledge of what transgenderism is when we don't even know what we're talking about? And they're so delicate, they're so pure. We need to be sure what we are saying to them. This is why we can't just come from a scientific point of view. We need to create the foundation that we are all more than a body. We're all more than a so-called mind. We have to come from the perspective that science literally gets things wrong. Science will tell you that an Irish person years ago is dumber than other white people because they're Irish. Or that lobotomies, again, were good. And the science changes and they make mistakes, but it doesn't matter. The point is, the scientific method itself is literally insufficient when holding down truth. It grabs it, then it slips. It grabs it, then it slips. And it doesn't even grab it, it thinks it grabs it. That's the thing. Because we have this idea that science is amazing. Yes, science is amazing, but it has limits. Let's look at the limits and then use the aspects of science that we can use to determine reality. And then use the other sides of the mind, the mental, the philosophical, the spiritual, even the religious. Pull it all together and then we can talk about what is the truth. We can't just come from one perspective. So, yeah, I think I said what I said, right? So ultimately, yeah, Neil was making a larger point. I'm making an even larger point. And, you know, ultimately, don't be bad to people. Don't have this blanket idea that, you know, it's just this and that. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, if you was in a political power and you just said gay people are just, you know, just mental and transgenders are just mental, transgender people are just mental, then that will then set up a society where we can just be horrible to people who have who are gay and transgender, and then create again these camps where we try to change them, which is, you know, if they really feel it in their being, that's not the loving way, the compassionate way to be with anyone. And that's for kids. Kids just receive people how they receive people. We don't need to tell them, you know, when they're so young, about the deep sides of transgenderism. But yeah, apart from that, have a wonderful day, guys. Have a wonderful evening. And whatever you do, do it with kindness. I'm talking quick because my phone is about to cut out. Peace.